After the motions hearing, typically then we go to, or multiple motions hearings, we go to trial. Trial is what you're thinking of in trial, where we're going into court. They're impaneling the jury, or the panel as they call it, and we're picking the jury. After we pick the jury by asking them questions, we're giving opening statements. The government's going to call their case. We're going to cross-examine their witnesses, and that's where the rubber meets the road. And that's really what you think of when you go to trial. And after the government rests their case, we can call a case if we choose to. Oftentimes, the defense doesn't even call a case because we build our case through cross-examination. In other cases, we'll decide to call our case, which means calling witnesses on our own, or calling experts, or having our client testify. And that's a decision that no client is required to testify at any trial. And in most criminal defense cases, as you're probably aware, a defendant typically doesn't testify, although that's an individual decision you have to make. And there are certain times when it's a strategic decision. You make to testify in your own defense at trial, but that's an important decision that you're going to have to make with the advice of your counsel. And that trial process can be 3 days, it can be 3 weeks, it can be a month. It's depending on, most military court-martials are 1 to 2 weeks. The government gives a closing argument, we give closing arguments, then the panel gets the case, they deliberate, and that's the moment when all of this gets put together and they have their findings. And their findings, you'll come in, you're going to be nervous as hell because your whole life's on the line here. We're going to be nervous. We always are, because it's a verdict. And hopefully, if everything was done right from the initial investigation to the 32 to the motions hearings, the way the case was tried, that panel is going to stand up and say, to all charges and specifications, not guilty. And when that happens, you're free. The nightmare is over. You've walked through this hell and come out the other side. If the panel comes and says something different than that, then you have to go to sentencing, which is a whole entirely separate proceeding in the military. But it's critically important that you understand that the trial just doesn't happen on its own. And it's critical that you do all the lead up steps to prepare for trial. Otherwise, you're going to lose. If you're a sports fan, you can think of any sport, think of football. We all love to watch the games on Sunday or Monday Night Football. And that game is a couple hours on television. But we all know the players don't just show up to the field and just play a game. I mean, we know that. That's obvious. There are two-a-days, there are practices, there's film, there is a game plan, everything. There are so many hours that you don't see behind the scenes before any player, any head coach goes out into the field. And you need to make sure that all of that work is actually being done for your trial, because if it's not, you're going to get obliterated. And so you have to make sure that you have legal counsel that understands that this is not just show up to court, blow the dust off the file and go wing it, that there is a hell of a lot of work that has to be done from the moment you're under investigation all the way up to the findings. And if you don't, you're going to end up losing the vast majority of your cases. And what you'll find is the attorneys that understand that the preparation matters, and it's the preparation that allows you to have good results in trial. Those are the attorneys that win consistently over and over and over. And whether that's a free military attorney that has that ability or civilian counsel, that is what you need if you are facing a court martial.